Good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. We have with us today Patton, but he says Patton, but it's Dr. Patton, but we're gonna let him do him. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Patton Dodd, and I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm the author of a book called The Father You Get, a memoir about fatherhood. And I think we'll end up talking about that some.
Of course. But how do we get there? How do we get to writing this memoir? Take us through the journey.
Well, I grew up in a pretty troubled household with a dad who was a mess of a man, and he died in 2007. And I was relieved when he was gone. I was in my early 30s when he died, and I was ready to move on. He was a kind of a burden to my mom and my sister and I enjoyed, kind of sounds bleak, but I just enjoyed him, not being in our lives anymore because he was so hard for us to deal with for so long. He was an alcoholic and an addict and just, like I said, a mess of a man. But you know what? You find out over time, you might think you're done with the past, but the past isn't done with you. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I knew eventually, I guess I ran from this project for a long time, but I had friends and family for years telling me, when are you going to write about your dad? And eventually, sometime during early days of the pandemic, I finally started to write about him and to try to get to know him and to try to deal with my own wounds around him, as well as just father issues overall. My memoir deals with my own father. It's the subtitle of my book is the title is The Father You Get and the Ones You Make, Believe in, and Become. So we deal with the father you're born with, the father figures that you might make throughout your life or pursue or seek out, the one you believe in, which, could be the idea of the heavenly father or kind of ultimate ideas of God, of fatherhood, and then the one you become when you become a parent. And so I, through my own story, kind of wrestle through all those concepts and come to some terms with my own past and some healing through getting to know my own story. So that's what the book is.
Okay. All right. So for all 30 years, your dad was an alcoholic? Because you say he died in your early 30s.
Yeah. I think he was an alcoholic from the time he was probably a teenager until he passed. He was in his early to mid 60s when he died. And he wrestled with addiction really his whole life through. My parents were together the whole time I was being raised. My sister and I both. My sister's 5 years older than I am. My dad was in the home. They split up at the very, very end. My mom left him the same year that he died. And
Homeschool families. Homeschool Yo Kids Expo and Homeschool Beats Academy are teaming up to bring you a day of real support and real inspiration. Come explore curriculum and enrichment, meet trusted vendors, and connect with the homeschool community. And at our featured Expo stop, meet Homeschool Beats Academy and see how students ages 7 to 18 can create original music through beat making and production with parent-friendly guidance. Get dates and details at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
But our home was intact. He was there, but he was present but absent, I say. And he moved us all around the country. I was in 6 different schools my first 7 years of school, from Tennessee, Alabama, California, Colorado. He was kind of burning bridges and trying to run to the next thing. He wrestled with these addiction issues his whole life, never quite got on top of them, and eventually basically drank himself to death.
Okay, so we get to talk about a few things then, because you know how everyone always promotes, two-parent household. How beneficial is that two-parent household?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's complicated, right? Because, that might be the ideal. And I've wrestled a lot with my mom's decision to stay in this marriage that was clearly not good for her or for her children. She later said she married him when she was 19 years old. So she was very young. I think he was 26, 27, but she said she knew on her honeymoon that she had made a mistake. But she stayed with him for 39 years, almost 4 decades. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to answer that question because I only know the story that I lived.
Yeah.
The story that I lived, my parents were together and it was definitely chaos. My dad, there's definitely a part of me that thinks we would have been better off if she had left him when we were little and been a single mom, maybe, or maybe eventually remarried. Who knows? I think that would have saved us from some harm. However, that's not what happened. And so I can't really I don't know what that story would have been. It might have been worse. It's hard to say. But in many ways I was raised by a single mom because, my dad was there, but he wasn't doing much. He wasn't involved, in any serious ways in our lives. My mom was kind of running the whole show.
I think your title of your book, have you ever listened to Wayne Dyer?
No, I'm familiar with that.
No,
but
okay.
I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, because he talks about his dad too, and even wanting to go and do things to his grave and everything because of how upset he was with his dad. But the father you get. So okay, well, a little background about me. Let me tell my business real quick. I didn't meet my biological father until I was 36. The very first time I talked to him and everything, I think I was 35. No, first time I talked to him, I was in labor with my second child. She's 9. So that was 9 years ago. 30. So I was 32, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not good at math. But he's an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. He's definitely alcoholic. He's from LA. That's where he grew up at. And just meeting him and talking to him in person, it was like, oh yeah, no, you didn't need to be a mom.
Yeah, you're better off without him.
Yes, but I also had a stepdad though that filled in that spot. That's who I refer to as my dad. He came into my life at 4, introduced me to books, had me at the library. That was that I got.
Homeschool families, are you ready to refresh your plans for the year? Join us at the Homeschool Yo Kids Expo. Meet curriculum and enrichment vendors, discover new programs, and connect with a community that gets it, all in one place. Come with questions, leave with real options. Get event details and register now at homeschoolyokidsexpo.com. That's homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
But this other fella, this bio, he's an interesting person. I haven't even talked to him in the last probably 2-3 years. He just disappeared again. But it's just like, okay, well, what if I had got him? Mm-hmm. It's like I think about how my life, because he's LA, he's a little superficial. He's a little I would have had you modeling. I would have had, sir, I don't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. Right. Why would you have had me do that? Yeah. But it was just so your title really stuck out to me when I was reading over it and everything. It's like, okay, because you talk about the ones that you made up as far as the father figures. You said you had an imaginary dad. Talk about the imaginary dad.
Yeah, when I was a little boy, my imaginary friend was named Papa Friend, which is a little bit obvious for a kid who has daddy issues. But I ran around in my brain with a playmate all throughout my childhood named Papa Friend. And I talked about Papa Friend all the time to my mom. He was my playmate. I imagined him as this old, short dude with a salt and pepper beard, long beard. And when I would climb trees, he would climb trees with me. When I would be riding my bike, he'd be on my handlebars. Papa Friend was just in my life. And it's funny because I knew that I had done that when I was a little boy, but it wasn't until I wrote this book that I really started to make sense of it. It's sort of obvious, but I was doing the work of trying to fill in the gap, of my own dad, who again was there in the home, but he wasn't engaging with me in any way. And as I reflected on all this when I was working on my book, I realized I've been making dads for myself my whole life through. People talk about father figures as if they are people that come to you and kind of appear in the world as coaches or pastors or mentors or whatever. But in my case, I think what I was really doing was creating father figures in my imagination. First with Papa Friend, but later with actual men who were, older men. They might have been bosses at the jobs that I had, or like I said, pastors, or just people, professors that I had in school. And I would fashion them into these kind of ideal fathers that I needed to learn from, needed to get things from. And there's a lot of, I think, there's a lot of good, probably psychology in that effort. Like you're looking for mentorship, you're looking for love and guidance. But one of the things that I kind of had to contend with in my story is that sometimes those situations kind of get flipped into, I don't know, like you lose agency in those relationships. I had a long-term relationship with an older man who was a boss to me. He was a pastor and a boss. And I idealized him as a father figure. And I kind of needed him to fill in all the gaps, and he just couldn't do it. He was never going to do it. And so our relationship was kind of corrupted, in part by choices that he made, but also by my, my kind of, desperation, for him to fill in the gap of the dad, that I had never had. And so I talk about how it's good to have father figures for sure, but you also have to kind of keep your head about you, keep your, you know what I mean? Like keep your own sense of self. Cause I lost myself in some of these relationships. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Cause you're hoping for something that you're not receiving. It's That's like, right. Okay, it's another disappointment.
That's right.
Essentially. Cause that's why I was wondering, like, okay, to have an absent dad, to have a dad who's just not there at all. You don't see him. You can't physically touch him. Yeah. You can't, nothing. That's totally different than having someone who's present, but not present. Like you see this man on a daily basis, but you can't go to him for anything. You can't ask him for anything. Like, I don't know, like how mentally how that goes. I didn't have those type of dynamics. So it's like how psychologically, like,
yeah, no. Yes, exactly. It does a number on you, which is why when my dad passed, like I said earlier, when my dad passed, I was like, right on, like we can just move on now.
Relief. Yeah.
But it's just not that easy. Like you don't just get to move on. And in fact, like there are consequences for the choices that he made, for the choices that my mom made. I was haunted by some things for a long time, and I needed to work on this book really to just kind of get to know my own story and come to terms with all this stuff, because it wasn't leaving me alone. That's how trauma works, right? Like it's in you, and it won't leave you alone. And you can either address it.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. If you don't address it, it's going to address you. And so, yes, that's
how many siblings do you have?
I just have one older sister. She's 5 years older. And she's a big deal in my life. I mean, she kind of helped raise me. I talk in my book about how, because my dad was who he was and the way he was, my sister, she taught me to read. She taught me to write. She taught me to ride a bike, throw a ball, drive a car, like drive a stick shift, like all that stuff. She was the one. She was kind of a father figure, actually. You know what I mean? She taught me courage and responsibility and a lot of that. My mom was also a really important, figure in my life. We could talk more about her later, but my sister was like, she actually did a lot of work. And this happens a lot, I think, in like dysfunctional families. Like there's a sibling who kind of has to rise to the challenge. It's not fair. Like that should not have been put on her. But it was put on her, and to her credit, she took up that responsibility and helped me find my way.
Yeah, shout out, big sis. Thank you.
Casey, we love Casey, Aunt Casey to my kids. We're still we still talk every week, and we'll always be close.
Of course. And so, how many do you have of your own?
I have 3. I have 3. And now they're grown. For the most part, they're 22, 19, and 15. So I have one still at home, and one who's in graduate school, and one who's in college. So yeah, we've been at this for a while.
Yes. So has therapy been a part of your journey, or was this book part of therapy?
Therapy has been a part of my journey. It's funny that you're asking me that question, because I'm actually going to see a therapist for the first time in a long time on Friday. But I talk in the book about how I before the year before my dad died is the first time I went to go see a therapist. I knew that I needed to like deal with this stuff. And so I did a little bit of therapy then for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. I couldn't really afford to keep going at the time. And so I stopped. But I've been doing for a long time. I don't know if you've ever heard of spiritual direction. Is that a familiar term to you?
Not necessarily.
It's kind of like therapy. I mean, it's not like clinical therapy, but it's similar in the sense that you're meeting on the regular with someone, you're talking, it's like talk therapy. You're exploring your story, you're exploring your psychology. And then it's just kind of geared towards your spiritual formation, like using the resources of your spirituality to kind of find healing. So I've been doing that for a while through a good friend of mine who's a spiritual director. And that's been a kind of therapy, but maybe not quite the same thing. You know what I mean? As a, like I said, clinical therapy. And I was encouraged a few months ago through a friend to go back to actual therapy. So I just made that phone call 2 weeks ago, and I had my first session this coming Friday.
Okay.
I still have work to do.
Of course. We always will. So it's like when people be like, "Oh, I'm healed." I'm like, "Wait, are you?"
Right.
Like, is that a thing? Can you get to that side? I know healing is always a constant, but heal is a big proclamation, like, to make, like, that, like,
correct.
You had nothing to work on. Okay, that's beautiful. Yeah. I'm not there. Like, I got plenty. Like, daddy issues is a real thing. Like, it really is.
Right.
Even when replacements are sent, and I'm grateful for who was in my life by all means, but dads are important. Like, it's no way around it. It's no, having a father, even just having that father figure in general. I watched my sister raise 4 boys. Mm-hmm. And their dad was in and out. He wasn't as present as we would have, hoped for, of course. Mm-hmm. But, they're important. It's the other half of you. Like, the whole other genetic makeup of you that is there, or not there, really. It's intense. It's intense. So, how did you move into fatherhood with having experienced what you did with your father? How did you move into fatherhood?
Yeah. With fear and trembling, I guess I would say, like, my wife and I got married out of college. We had been married for a few years when we got pregnant for the first time. And, I guess I would say I was kind of numb to it at first. Like, I was excited, like, kind of conceptually, I was excited. Like, my head was in it, but I don't think my heart was at first. I think I was too scared about what was coming. And parenting is a huge unknown before you have a kid, and you have no idea just how life-changing it's going to be. And I talk in my book about how when my first baby was born, you hear these stories about, like, being in the delivery room and the dad or the partner, is like, I've heard these stories about just the experience of watching the birth of your child happen, and how you're full of wonder, and you just can't, you're weeping and embracing the moment. That is not what happened to me. To me, I felt like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so surreal and strange. And I was excited to be a dad. Obviously, like, I quote unquote loved my baby girl, but I remember those first few weeks of, like, bottle feedings and diapers and, like, learning all the things that I had to learn how to do. And, like, thinking to myself when I was alone, like, why is my heart not in this? Like, I'm responsible for this baby. I love this baby, like, in the sense of feeling responsible to her. But I thought I would get the benefit of, like, a surge of emotion, like, in my chest. You know what I mean? I haven't cried once. I haven't felt anything really. And I was worried that, like, I was just broken. Maybe because I had a bad dad, I can't be, my heart's just is not built for this. And I was really concerned about it. I don't know when that stopped, but it definitely stopped. Like, I'm a mess for my kids now. Like, I blubber all the time. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of dads, like, you get very mushy as your kids get older. But I think that, like, I was excited about being a dad, but I did not have, like, an emotional connection to the role of fatherhood for a while. So at some point it definitely kicked in, and like, my kids are everything to me and they have been for a long time, but it took a minute for me to get there, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and that's something to talk about because, moms, like, we have to be connected. Like, they're inside of us.
Right.
Like, we are literally sharing everything with them. Like, there's no way to ignore. There's no way to pretend like it ain't there. Like, the baby's with us all the time, like from day one. So it's different. So I can understand it taking a minute for it to click like that. It's my baby. Like, as a dad feeding this little being, and it's like, oh, hey there.
Right.
Like, you do belong to me, huh? Like, it's like, okay, what do I do with this? Because
it can feel like an alien life form that's just kind of coming to your home, and you're like, I guess this is what we're doing now. But who am I in this? Am I a dad yet? Am I a dad because I had a baby? Like, what makes me a dad? I think it took me a while for my chest to kind of kick in to the act of fatherhood. I was fine to organize my life around it in a way. Like, I'm going to change my schedule. I'm going to change my money, whatever. We didn't have money anyway, but like, I'm going to orient myself around this responsibility. Sure. The practical parts, I think I was up for, but the spiritual and emotional side of it, the identity piece, I really am a dad. This is who I am now. This relationship is first and foremost in a lot of ways in my life. Yeah, that didn't happen in the delivery room or even in the next few weeks. Like, that took a while for that to kind of settle in. And I think it's important to tell that story because I think a lot of dads and probably moms too have that experience at times, but it feels shameful to talk about because you're supposed to just have a big heart.
Baby's here. Oh, I love you so much. Exactly. I love you. You are my whole world.
Yes, exactly. All that
nothing exists outside of you. Yes.
Right. All that sentimental stuff. No, that was not my story. Now it is now. Like I said, it is now. Like they're everything to me, and they have been for a while. But I think it's worth acknowledging that sometimes that takes time.
Yes, and you're not broken because of it. It just takes time.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Your heart will form. Like, you are wired. Unless you just actively resist it, the way my dad did, you actually are wired. You actually are wired, to nurture. And if you just keep showing up and offering presents and doing that over and over again, day in, day out, I mean, you're gonna get the benefit of love for that kid, and the love is the fuel, really, I think, that we depend on to keep doing the very hard work of parenting.
Your dad have siblings?
Yeah, my dad had an older sister, just like I do. He had a sister who was, I think, 8 or 9 years older. They were not close, and in fact, she was the only family member. He had one cousin and then this sister. And because he had moved us around so much, he had kind of cut us off from his family. So I hadn't talked to them in many, many years. And when I set out to write this book, it took me about a year of kind of like poking at things to realize I don't really know enough about this person to write about him. And so I kept reaching out to his sister through my cousin, through one of her kids, to say, hey, can we talk about, how y'all were raised? And she kept kind of putting it off and eventually I realized, she's avoiding this. She does not want to talk to me. And eventually I heard through a mutual connection, Mimi is what we call her. He said, Mimi has no intention of ever talking to you about her brother. And so then I was like, now I'm really curious, because if she's avoiding it that much, there must be a real story here.
What happened? Yes.
And so to her credit, though, eventually they're in Tennessee, and I went to Tennessee kind of like on a reporting trip. I went all over the South looking for stories about my dad. And I tell the story of that road trip in the book, and it ended with me going to visit with Mimi, and who's since passed away. But she gave me the great gift that night of story. She answered my questions. She told me some truths about the way they were raised. She was clear. She was like honest about the fact that she really did hate him. She really did not like him. Didn't want to talk about him. He was a problem in their family. But he wasn't the origin of the problem. Like she,
of course not. And that's what I was trying to get to, the root. Like, because
exactly,
we all know that there's got to be a root. So.
Always. And I from what I could piece together, he was abused as a kid, for many, many years, and it's a shameful story. It's really sad. It's easy for me to understand now why my aunt did not want to talk about it. But I'm so glad she told me some truths, because now I know why my dad was the way he was. I have compassion for him that I never had before, because I see what happened to him, the wounds that he was carrying. Now, he never really attended to his own wounds, except through drinking, and drugs, but he never he never talked to anybody. He never even talked to his own wife, much less going to see a therapist or something. And I really wish he would have. I think he could have found healing, but at least I know that, he was the way he was because of some stuff that was done to him. And it helps me have some sympathy, and some understanding, for the way he was.
Did you ever internalize his behavior for anything towards you? Like, did you feel like you were
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, he would just tell me that I was the reason he drank.
Really?
I didn't have to try hard to internalize it, because he just... I mean, I confronted him one time, multiple times, but one in particular story of me confronting him about his drinking. We were I was like 19 years old, and I had staged kind of an intervention conversation with him. And at one point he kind of insinuated that the reason he had to drink was because of me. He kind of hinted at it. And I was like, wait a minute, Dad, are you saying I'm the reason that you drink? And he kind of paused for a second, and then he kind of looked at me and nodded. And then he goes, wow. And then he goes, not just you, it's your mom and sister too. But
all of y'all. It's all of y'all.
Yeah, it's all y'all. Y'all.
Yeah, it's y'all. It's all y'all.
But my gosh. He was running, he couldn't own it. He was running from himself. And I think he was terrified to look at what was actually inside of him. And so I internalized it, sure. I mean, I knew that was a lie in a way, but how do you not, just receive that from your dad? I definitely felt messed up around that conversation for a long time. Even though I knew it was false, I knew that I wasn't to blame. But when they say it's you, you're gonna kick and scream against that for a while, and I definitely did.
Oh man, yeah, he was hurt, like hurt.
He was hurt. Yes, correct.
Oh man, and that's why I talk about parents and the need for healing. Like, why it's so important for us as parents, like, to address our wounds, our traumas, our triggers, everything. Because if not, you're going to pass it on.
100%. I mean, hurt people, right?
Hurt people. So how did you avoid that cycle?
Well, I mean, we haven't been talking about my mom, and she's the flip side to this story. Okay. Now she, she, as we have alluded to, chose to stay, and it's complicated. However, she was like the silver lining to the cloud of our lives all the time. She was the shelter in the storm for my sister and I. My mom was like even though, again, I wrestle with some of her choices that she made around our family's dysfunction and some of her codependency. Day in and day out, she was light, and she was joy, and she was strength. And I talk in my book about how my dad, when he died, like literally 0 people came to his funeral for him. Like there was no one to even tell, because he was disconnected from everybody. So it was me and my mom and my sister, some of my sister's friends, but no one was there for my dad. Versus my mom died in 2018, and her funeral was like standing room only. Like, I will always remember being at the front of that chapel, like giving a eulogy, and like seeing people standing in the back. All the pews were packed, people standing in the back, because people just showed up for this woman, because she was, like I said, she was light, and she was strength, and she was joy, and people were drawn to her whole life through. And so, there was like dark and light in my home, really. And my mom was light, and she, she was loving, and she was tender, and she was kind, and she was thoughtful. She was really patient and compassionate. I mean, I was a mess when I was like a teenager. I was becoming my father, like a lot of, as you can imagine, drinking and drugging and whatever, running around. And my mom, guided me through all of that really well. She didn't overreact to any of my stupid behavior. She was gracious and forgiving. And eventually we became very, very close when I was in my late teens and 20s and into my 30s. And she kind of taught me the way, she taught me how to be. I'm still trying to be her. Like mine, just like she is the model for me and for my sister, for her grandkids, of the way to be in the world. It sounds like I'm maybe over exaggerating who she was, but I swear I'm not. Like if you knew her, you'd be like, this woman's amazing. Everyone loved my mom.
Yes, no, by all means, like, yes. And you needed that. You needed that balance. That's a balance. Like you said, the light and the dark, that's a heavy balance. Did y'all ever have that talk as to like, did you ever ask her, why did you leave?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We had really honest conversations. I mean, when my sister and I both left the home, we were pushing her to leave for a long time. She stayed with him another, I guess it would have been about 10, maybe 8 to 10 years after we were both, raised and gone. So then it was really like, why are you still there? Like, we're gone. You don't need to be. And she would always just say, if I leave him, he will die. Like, I think I'm the only thing keeping him alive. I think she also just hoped that there would be healing. My mom was a very faithful Christian. She believed that God might have a plan for their lives and for him. She believed in his possible healing, and for better or worse. And I think she just thought. I also think she felt enormous responsibility. She was codependent for sure. You know what I mean? This is like classic behavior in these relationships. It's just you end up feeling like you are responsible for this person and for the choices that they're making. And she definitely had that kind of, that belief in her head that was not healthy. She didn't have boundaries from him for a very long time. And so, we would always try to get her to leave. And we would talk a lot around her choices. And I don't know. I mean, it's like my mom she grew up in Belmont, Mississippi, small little town. She had a boyfriend in middle school that they dated all through middle school and high school. And he was a year older, and he went to college at Mississippi State University a year ahead of her. And she always knew, and they had always said, after they get through college, they're going to get married. So she follows him to Mississippi State University a year after he goes. And she finds out he's been like fooling around at college. He's in a fraternity, whatever. He's like being a, idiot college boy. So she kind of puts up with it for a year. And at the end of her freshman year, when they're back home in Belmont, she tells him, "Hey, I thought we were going to be together." And his name's Jackie. Jackie says to my mom, "We are going to be together, but I want to be in college first. I want to have a good time in college, and then we'll get married." And she says, "That's not good enough for me." And so she breaks up with him. And then it's like 2-3 weeks later, she meets my dad. And like 6 weeks later, she marries my dad. So my dad catches her on the rebound after she's heartbroken from Jackie, and then never sees Jackie again, really. Like, she just is caught up in this relationship with this guy who, again, as I said before, on her honeymoon, she realized, oh, he's an alcoholic. He doesn't have any money. He's a mess. He lied to me about who he was. But now she's married, and it's 65, whatever it is. She's Southern Baptist. You don't leave. You know what I mean? You don't get divorced. And so she just ends up staying, and then got pregnant, and then got pregnant again. And just, it became him and his drinking, and their situation just kind of became her whole world. And then finally, after they had been married, like 39 years, she finally starts, really taking seriously the idea of, she starts seeing a therapist. She starts learning about boundaries. She eventually works up the nerve to leave my dad. And in the meantime, she had reconnected with this guy, Jackie. She had gone to a family reunion in Mississippi and seen him.
Really?
And his wife had died 10 years earlier from breast cancer, tragically. But the spark was still there for both of them. And so they reconnected. She left my dad. My dad, as she always said, if I leave him, he'll die. He did. Like, he drank himself to death within a few months after she was gone. But then she was free of him.
Within a few months?
Within a few months. Yeah. She left him in February and he was gone in December. So, I talked about darkness and light earlier. There's darkness and light in this story. Like, there's sadness here, but also my mom, was able to build a new life and have real love with Jack.
Happiness.
They got married a couple years later, and they had a good 10 years together before she then passed of breast cancer. I tell this whole story in my book. I mean, I wrestle with it because I have anger around her life being what it was. She should have had a lot more time with Jack. You know what I mean? I want that for her. But I also have immense gratitude for who she was and what she gave us and so many other people.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm a believer of trust the process. Like, you have to know that everything is in order for what it's supposed to be for you. So it's like, even though we wish or would have liked for things to be different for someone or for ourselves in general, it's not our cards. It's not what it was supposed to be. So It's like, okay, well, what was it that I was supposed to learn from this or grow from this, or just how is this supposed to help me in this journey? I'm so glad your mother had that redemption story. Like, she had,
me too.
She had that time, because I was wondering, like, did she get love? But to find, like, she rekindled the boo from the wave. Like, oh my gosh, that is I'm happy for her. Are y'all still connected? You and the guy?
Jack, not really. I mean, we're lightly so. I mean, he has a very full life in Alabama with his grandkids and his kids and grandkids. And so my mom died. Let's see, it's almost going to be 9 years ago that she passed. 8 years ago that she passed. And we were visiting each other for a couple of years, but we've kind of moved on a little bit. We stay in touch a little bit, but it doesn't really matter though. Like, I'm glad for that story. I'm glad for the time they were able to have together, and the healing that happened, as long as it did. I wish it would have been a lot longer, but there was still some redemption for my mom.
Of course. So how are you? Like, how are you? Because you say you about to go back into therapy. I got some stuff I need to talk about right now. So how are you?
I'm a mess. I am. I talk about this a little bit at the beginning of my book. I feel like I'm okay. Like I've been married for 27 years. We just hit 27 years. We've got, as I said before, these 3 kids. We are close as a family. There's a lot of blessing in my life. And I love the work that I do here in San Antonio. I have great friends around me. I'm really deeply connected to a bunch of people who helped shape my life. And so, like, I'm good in a lot of ways, but I'm deeply insecure. I have anxiety issues. I have crazy insomnia because of the anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff to work on. And I think that for a long time, I thought that I could get away with, just skirting some of these issues, not looking deeply into my own story, because I was okay for the most part. I'm holding down a job. I'm not addicted to anything. I have strong relationships around me. Like, I'm doing fine for the most part, but I also know that there's stuff that is unresolved, and there's work that I need to do. I sometimes spiral inside. I just wrote about this the other day with the news that's been happening the last week or so in our world. I sometimes just will go into a death spiral internally, where I'm just feeling very fearful and uncertain and anxious. And that's normal in a lot of ways because of some of the crises that are happening around us. But I also I want to be stronger and healthier. And which is why I'm going to therapy. Like I need to keep, I'm 51 years old. I hope I have a lot of life ahead of me, but it's not going to be as good a life as it could be if I don't commit to doing this work and to keep working on myself. And so like, I guess I would say I'm great, but is my answer to your question. You know what I mean? That's probably true of just about anybody. I'm doing well, but there's work to do.
But
yeah,
I know I still need work. Yes. And that's a great realization. And that's what families and parents have to understand. Like, it's okay to know that you have to work. And I talk to myself all day. I coach myself all day, especially with homeschooling my two little people, because I'm making conscious efforts to not repeat cycles.
Yeah.
You know, and that takes intentionality. That takes you recognizing, oh shucks, okay, I could have said this, but I'm pausing because I don't want to say that because I care about my baby's feelings. I care, you know, like it's work. Yeah. It's work.
Yeah.
You're fighting something that's natural sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So programming.
Yeah, absolutely. I was over Christmas. Part of the reason I reached out to this therapist is that over Christmas, all my kids were home. My two older kids were home. I was very glad they were home. This might have been even Christmas Eve or maybe a couple of days before Christmas. And I'm the family cook. So and I love doing the food. I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking up a storm and they're all in the living room or doing whatever they're doing. And someone said something to me. I can't even remember what it was now, but someone said something to me that like just frustrated me and made me feel small and angry. And for the next 2-3 hours, like in my head, I was like getting into a darker and darker place. You know what I mean? And just like spiraling. And I was like, what is going on? Like my kids are here. My wife is here. We're all good. Like there's food.
Why did that hurt so much? Why did that?
Right. What is the thing that's setting me off? No one in the family is even having a bad night right now. I'm just privately, without them even knowing it, getting into a dark place in my head. What is that all about? And so I don't know. It's that kind of thing though, that I'm like those things are signals. Like in some ways, those kinds of episodes can be a gift because they're like a little bit of a clue to yourself that, hey, pay attention. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be able to kind of, to survive even a very, good life without attending to these issues, these wounds that you have. There's things that you've probably ignored that you can't ignore anymore. And so it takes, I think, courage to do that and time and, patience with yourself. And I would rather avoid it because I can like fill my head with like podcasts and YouTube videos and distraction, you know what I mean? Forever. And I've definitely done that.
There's plenty of them out there. There's plenty,
exactly.
Plenty of stuff to watch.
There's plenty of stuff to just like distract yourself from the truth about who you are. But, you know, that's going to catch up with you eventually. And so I'm not going to do that. I hope by the grace of God, I'm not going to do that.
The knowledge of self is so important. It's like once you know, like, oh, yes, I know that bothers me. Like, you can't tell me. Can't tell me about me. Like, it's recognizing and understanding, like, I know I'm a piece of work. I know I have to work on these things. And I'm doing the work. So you telling or pointing out or someone else pointing or telling, it's like, oh, okay. I know that already. I got you. It's on my list. But what was your parenting style like?
Well, that's a good question. I think it was mostly about presence, like just trying to be as present as possible to my kids, which is hard, especially when they're young. We joke about how boring it is to have little kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're super cute and all that, but also those days are long. So like you can only put that puzzle together so many times before you lose your mind. So I think my parenting style was about trying to choose to keep offering presence as much as I could. I don't know. I wasn't like, I'm not very authoritative. I think I'm a better parent to older kids than I was to younger kids because I think I'm a pretty good hang. Like I like to like talk and hang out and do activities and go biking and running and that kind of stuff. And so conversation is is something that I just love and love to offer as well as receive. And so the older my kids have gotten and the more conversational they've gotten, I think the better I've gotten as a dad. I think I would say I probably have kept my kids on a fairly long leash. Like I haven't been all that. I don't know. I have friends who are very concerned about what their kids, like, what are they doing on their phones? What are they doing with their friends? What are they doing when they're not at home? I didn't helicopter that way much at all.
I was a little helicopter.
Yeah. I don't think I was that way. If my kids were here, they might, I don't know what they would say about that, but I think that's true that I think I didn't hover, very much. And I'm not very risk averse. Like I'm okay with them, taking some risks. And, the thing that I value the most that we placed a lot of importance on as a family is like I said, conversation, which also means just like honesty, like talking about stuff. Like I tried to always tell my kids, like, you can tell us anything. Our dinner table should be a safe place, like to say the things that you want to say, to admit the things you need to admit that you did last night or whatever, you know what I mean? And I don't think that's always been perfectly true in my home, but I think we've tried to create a home where like emotional safety is a pretty high priority. Mm-hmm. Like you're not gonna get in big trouble for being honest. You know what I mean? As long as we can talk about it, we're going to be okay.
Yes. Communication.
Yeah.
Communication. I love that you said, like, the older they got and were able to have conversations, the better and more present you were able to be, because that was your thing. You wanted to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of parents fade out when their kids get older. A lot of times parents like take steps back as opposed to leaning more in, which I feel like, especially teens, like they're looking for that, like that conversation, that acknowledgement, that, oh, you see me. Oh, I matter in your world still.
And there's years where they don't want anything to do with you. Like they're really ready to kind of move on. Like, I don't know, 13 to like 17, 18, that can be a pretty rough stretch. And for some teenagers and their parents, it was for me and my mom, that's for sure. And my kids have had, seasons like that where they're obviously wanting to leave and become independent. And you kind of have to navigate those years, I think, with a lot of patience. And my sister, when my first kid was becoming a teenager, I called her one day after a hard day, and was struggling with parenting. And my she said to me in that phone call, "She will return to you." That's all that I remember from that conversation is her saying, "She will return to you." Like, just like, let these years happen. And that was true. That has been true. Me and that child, are friends. Like I love her. We have great times together. She has returned to us. Not that she ever really left, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like they need to push back for a while, and they will, but that doesn't mean they're going to do that forever.
Yeah. They're just trying to figure them out.
Yeah.
Like themselves. Like, what do I like?
100.
Like, my mom's been buying this all my life. Like, I want to try something else.
Right.
Like, I'm on money now. Let me do this.
Yes, exactly.
Identity, just like trying to really hone in on who they are. I see that in my preteen. I got a 12-year-old, and she's really like coming into, like, I'm falling back from trying to pick out her clothes now. Like, when we go to the store, I'm trying to pick it out or order things for her. It's like, okay, well, here, you choose, because our styles are different. We're not the same, and it takes a lot for a parent to go, okay, go ahead, do you?
Absolutely.
Ahead. You got it. I believe you got it.
That's right. Yeah, I have my two older kids. One of them, so we're in San Antonio. One of my kids now goes to school in Portland, Oregon, and one of them goes to school in upstate New York. So they're as far away from us as they could possibly be in this country. Like we're like an upside down triangle in terms of our like family geography now. And I've had a couple of parents ask me, like, how does that feel that they chose to like be as far from you as they possibly could be for school? And you could read it that way. You could read it as like rejection, but the other read of it is that they know it's okay to go explore the world, you know?
I was
to
going to
go.
say, I see it as you have instilled in them courage. You
Right.
instilled in them like, hey,
Right.
go explore,
Yeah.
go out and see and not be afraid. Like that's
right.
That's a lot. Like I
Yeah.
love that. My
Yeah.
girls talk about believing me all the time. They're 9 to 12. And I'm like, go ahead, honey. Go.
That's right. Go. Yes.
Yes, please.
That's right.
Please go. So I can come over your house and mess it up. Mess up your house. Yes. But how do you self-care?
I told a cooking story earlier of me being in a bad state of mind while I was cooking. That not a good example of this, but cooking is one of the answers. I love cooking and making drinks. I'm kind of a nerd about that stuff. So that's food is definitely a big one. And then running is a really big part of my life. I'm not like a great athlete or anything, but I learned, I don't know, probably 15 or maybe 20 years ago now that like running on a trail without headphones is maybe the most important self-care I can do. Like if I run with music or podcast or whatever, it's not the same thing. I have to run in silence and in the woods or even on a park trail, but just like being away, pounding the trail, and getting my heart rate up, is healing for me. So those are, yeah, moving my body in space is a big deal. And then the third thing I would say is conversation like this, like talking to people. Like I have a group of really good friends. They're all across, we used to all live in Colorado together. Now we're kind of all over the country, but we communicate every day on WhatsApp and we get together whenever we can in person. And that's kind of my community, and staying in that community, choosing even when I don't want to like talk to them about what I'm going through is vital. So those are the most important things. And then obviously family, like I said, my wife, like making sure that I'm working on that relationship and that we're present to each other, going for walks together. Yeah, food, people, and moving my body.
Your body, yes. Love it. Move it or lose it. Move it or lose it.
That's right.
Where do we find your book?
So if you want to hear it, it's on Audible. You can also get it anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore. You can ask for it. Yeah, should be easy to find.
Nice. And we'll have the links available in the description. And one more thing before I let you go. 3 things. If you don't hear anything else during this whole conversation, what are 3 things you would like our listeners to leave this conversation with?
Wow, that's a good question. Be present is probably the most important thing. Like keep choosing presence. I've talked about like listening to yourself, including the hard things that are inside of you. Like pay attention to those bad thoughts, those dark thoughts. Like don't just push them aside. Be present to others, and I guess that's it. Be present to yourself is number 2. And then number 3. I don't know. At this point, given all the stuff that's happening in our world and all the like worrying things there are to pay attention to, I think I just want to say to choose joy. Like, you know, find the things that not only make you joyful, but that create joy for those around you. And keep choosing that for yourself and for others.
Thank you for that, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Parents.
thanks for asking.
Of course. Parents, check it out. This is a bit different, I will say, because we didn't really touch on education all too much, which a lot of my conversations are, mainly focused on. But we talked about healing, we talked about self, and understanding cycles and breaking cycles. All of these things are important, especially when parenting, especially when homeschooling. It's important for you to understand you and why and how and just all of what encompasses you and where it came from. So learn yourself, heal those traumas, talk. If you need to talk to someone. But definitely check out that I got.
The Father You Get.
The Father You Get.
Yep.
The Father You Get. A word. The Father You Get. But yes, check them out. And always and forever, homeschool your kids.